You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. You know, our listeners come from all different backgrounds, all different levels of experience. Many of you are still in the wannapreneur stage. You're just thinking about that business that you want to start. Others have taken the plunge. You've started building the business you need for the life you want. And others are beginning to scale your business so that you can begin to build a team and begin to have more influence, more impact, and more income as you grow. It's helpful to bear in mind that no matter what level of success you think you are capable of or have already achieved, there are many examples and many people that we can learn from and be inspired by who have achieved astronomical results. And one of those producers is with me today. Based in New York City, Michael Coscetta is currently the Chief Sales and Strategy Officer of real estate technology company Compass Incorporated. He's responsible for growing all aspects of revenue. Before that, he was the Vice President of Global Sales at the fintech company Square. He led all areas of sales and business development for the $35 billion payments business. Michael, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Ralph, great to be here. Thank you very much for the flattering intro.
Well, you have a very interesting background and very impressive credentials. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in sales and what are some of the success distinctions that you have made along the way?
You know, sales has been in my world and in my professional life for almost 20 years now. And I started as an 18-year-old in college. Well, actually, probably way back before then. I was starting my own businesses when I was 8, 9 years old, finding things to sell, buying big packs of candy, selling them to other kids for a premium. So I think it's always been built in me to be an entrepreneur and to be in sales somewhere. But my first official sales role came when I was 18. I was in college. I just finished my freshman year at Harvard University. I was about to become a sophomore, obviously. And that summer, I took a job selling Cutco knives. And as strange of an opportunity as that may sound like, it really was an eye-opening experience for me to not only sell something officially, but to really learn how to grow, to learn how to sell myself, to learn how to run an operation, run a business, to be my own boss. And I realized that as a nerdy kid, who at the time was a biochemistry major, ended up graduating with a degree in economics, but I was not the one you would ever predict or pinpoint as being the, quote, sales guy, that anyone can learn how to sell. And that's where I got my beginnings and quickly learned that I also love to teach sales and moved into sales management before, really making sales management and sales leadership my career in many different companies, both my own and then later on into some larger technology companies where I really felt like there was a fit. So it's been a while. It's been a long time, but it's definitely an area of the world I love.
Sales has been very good to you, Michael, starting out with Cutco and working there and learning what sales is all about has allowed you at the time to graduate from Harvard with no debt. And it really kickstarted this entry into your sales and entrepreneurial career. From there, you went to Square, a $35 billion company. And today you're at Compass Incorporated, Chief Sales and Strategy Officer. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, the scale of the companies that you're working for is impressive. Especially, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they get caught in the limitation of where they are, and all of us have to start someplace. I think it's inspiring, but maybe a little bit overwhelming to hear about monies on the scale and on the size that we're talking about. But all of these companies had to start somewhere also. So I guess my question is, how have your entrepreneurial skills really served you in a corporate environment and helping these larger companies to grow and to achieve their goals?
It's a great question, Ralph. I think entrepreneurs make amazing employees because they're used to doing everything on their own. They're used to having to scrounge for resources. They're used to having to solve every problem. So you become a generalist. You get to see multiple parts of a business. As a business owner, I was the CEO, I was the CFO, I was the COO, I was the chief sales officer, the chief marketing officer. And clearly you're not great at everything, but you have to be good at most things to get a business off the ground. So you learn how to do everything the hard way. And the beauty of going into a larger organization or even a growing organization is that you have to also do a lot of things the hard way until you figure out how they work really well inside that business. But entrepreneurs don't take anything for granted. Entrepreneurs know what it's like to be self-motivated. They know what it's like to have to pave their own way, how to set their own goals, how to set the strategy, how to learn fast, how to iterate fast, and more importantly, how to improve fast. Because entrepreneurs were also generally responsible for their own finances, they also know very quickly where something is probably no longer a good investment, how to move on. So again, I think entrepreneurs make amazing employees because they take those same mindsets and apply them to a larger organization or an organization where now they might have more resources for a larger support staff or a bigger brand or a bigger marketing budget to be able to go, expose that company to a larger customer base and a larger world. So again, I think entrepreneurs can do phenomenally well anywhere because all of those skills, which are largely hard to quantify, are very transferable to any organization.
That is very powerful. And if someone is listening to this and they've been telling themselves, well, I'm not employable because I'm more entrepreneurial, or no one's going to hire me because I used to run my own business. Just listen to what Michael just said. Employees make excellent, or entrepreneurs make excellent employees, provided you've got that entrepreneurial drive and you have learned these lessons. So, stop the tape, back it up, listen to that over and over again, and get a different perspective on what's possible. That's what I'm trying to do here, is to expand your horizons, expand your understanding. Don't limit your thinking. Don't limit your potential by saying, this is who I am and this is all I can do, because there are lots of people out there doing much more. And like the intro says, break the rules and build the business you need so you can live the life you want. Mm-hmm. There's lots of different ways to break the rules and to do it in an ethical way and do it in a way that's going to create positive transformation. So, Michael, you already mentioned this earlier. I always ask salespeople, superstar salespeople like yourself, are salespeople born or are they made? And you've already alluded to that. You said that anyone can learn to sell. Tell us a little bit more about that. Is that really true? Is there hope for the rest of us?
I think it's true. And I think I'm a prime example of how do you take a nerdy, shy, somewhat introverted kid and turn him into an extroverted, clear speaking, coherent salesperson. I think sales is a transfer of emotion. So if someone can capture the emotion of what it's like to make a decision and purchase something, or the reason why someone might purchase something, well, that's one big step, to achieving a yes or to closing a sale. The second, in B2B sales is about fulfilling one of two requirements. Generally, will this help me add more revenue than it will cost me? Or does this solution save me more money than it's going to cost me to implement? And, a business, if you can answer those two questions, or at least one of the two, and show that this is an easy transition, because transition has a cost as well, those can be very methodical, very analytical, very simple answers. They don't have to be this superstar charisma kind of persona that people assume is required to be good in sales. Also today, with the proliferation of information, with the proliferation of data, of customer reviews, of feedback, there's not a whole lot that a buyer doesn't know when they speak to a salesperson. A salesperson is largely there to make a client feel comfortable, to make a prospect understand more detail that maybe they can't glean from a website or from reviews, and to figure out, most importantly, does this solution fit the needs that I have in my business, short-term, medium-term, and long-term? And if someone can map that out and explain in a coherent, clear way what those benefits or costs are, and then also somewhat share in the emotion of making that decision, I think anyone could sell. I think all of that is very repeatable, no matter who the individual is.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love how you position this, that salespeople today are not the conveyors of information. They certainly do answer questions and so forth, but like you said, information is everywhere. We can get the data that we want. Consumers are very well informed about what their options are. They've already done a great deal of research before you ever have the sales conversation. So it is not so much giving them information as it is making a human connection and being real. And as you said, the transfer of emotion. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so it's really about developing our people skills, much more so than just being able to create data and share that with them.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination. I don't think you could do one or the other. I think you have to put those two together to really make a coherent, consistent sale. Because people feel trust. They can't read trust, they can't know trust, but they feel it. And they feel when someone's being transparent and very honest and open. And then again, combined with the rational side of making a decision of, does this solve my problem? Does this add revenue? Does it save costs? Those are things that I think, anyone can figure out how to do.
Yeah. And like you said, entrepreneurs are really good at that. Is this going to make me money? Is this going to save me money? And what's it going to take to implement? I mean, those are some pretty good questions. And if we can provide, if we can articulate intelligent answers to that, wow, that is going to do so much to alleviate a lot of the concern that would be in the prospect's mind. You've had a lot of success in sales. Maybe let's talk about when sales don't come through. We all know the experience of we work so hard to get a sale or to develop a relationship, and then for whatever reason, and for a lot of different reasons, the sale doesn't happen. The prospect doesn't convert. The person that we've been trying to win over as a client doesn't sign up. What do you think the reasons for that are? And I know there's lots of different results or reasons for that, but what lessons can or do you take away from those instances where things don't go the way you planned?
So I think if people approach sales as a 100% objective, that they're already set up for failure. It's just a reality that not every situation is aligned to convert at that time. There could be external factors. There could be macroeconomic factors. The person who was pursuing a solution might change roles. The person who was the advocate or buyer might change priorities. Budgets change constantly. So there are a lot of structural reasons that'll cause a deal not to go through that are completely out of the control of the salesperson. But it's important for the salesperson to not lose face and to not lose touch and to still stay in front of that prospect company or prospect individual, so that when they do come back around to the buying cycle, that the first solution or the first salesperson they think of is that one. And that's how you create repeated success over the long run. I think the second is to realize that, 20% of clients and customers and prospects will jump at anything a salesperson says because they're excited. Another 20%, no matter what the salesperson offers, they could be offering free gold, free money, free anything. It'll be rejected. But then it's that 60% you really influence. And that's the 60% where your effort matters, clarity matters, rational examples matter. Third-party referrals or, some form of affirmation matters, to swaying someone toward the yes or toward the no on that spectrum. But there are people on both sides right off the bat who are automatically going to buy, who are automatically not going to buy. But that 60% is where I think that the effort and the nuance really happens. Very,
very powerful. And I like the mindset of that. Lots of lessons that we can take and apply in our business and in our sales activities. And I like what you said, that it's not about 100% focused on getting the sale, but it is building the relationship. And it leads me into the next thought about leadership, and particularly sales leadership, of leading people in the direction that is best for them, the best match, the best solution, the best service, the best product. What are some of the characteristics you see of someone who is really exemplifying this idea of sales leadership in the quality of the business that they bring in?
I think, this goes back to the transferability of what an entrepreneur is typically good at. But entrepreneurs, because they're typically very tight on resources and support, and often tight on finances, especially if they're a new company, you've got to very quickly find where your strengths are, and you've got to very quickly find what's repeatable, and find kind of that initial spark, see if it produces smoke. And if you see smoke, then of course, stoke it so that you get fire. And I think the best sales leaders I know, and the best sales leaders I've worked with, have a very realistic view of what the business is, of what the team is good at, and what the team is not good at. And it's very important to let people really lean on their strengths. Well, you can always coach up weaknesses and coach up cracks in a process, but focus people on their strengths, because that's where they feel confident. Confidence breeds action. Action breeds results. And I think that's the very basic equation of sales. The other thing is, as you're growing a sales organization, it's very important that you focus on being the engine of profit to a company. And if a sales team is generally the profit machine, well, it's going to continue to get resources because the business will end up relying on it for that fuel. But again, as a sales leader, because you're seeing large parts of an organization and you're seeing a lot of different people, you're almost constantly running an experiment. So find out what is repeatable across multiple salespeople. Because you don't want to just look at maybe your most talented salesperson or your most experienced salesperson and try to repeat what he or she does, because, again, maybe it's coming from 20 years experience. So what's repeatable across multiple salespeople? What's predictable across salespeople? Meaning, what inputs yield what outputs across multiple parts of the business? Okay, now we have some predictability. A sales team should also be a CFO's dream. Something where he or she knows you put in X dollars, you get Y output. And then once you have repeatability, predictability, well, then you can go scale an organization, because you know exactly what you have to put in to get specific results out. And again, you're handling the objections along the way of, it's not repeatable, it's not predictable enough, because again, you've had all these tests going on in the organization, and a really good leader is able to keep an eye on all of those things. Because again, they should have a very realistic grounding in the organization, knowing what the organization's strengths and weaknesses are. But again, taking those data and having a very clear plan of how to continue to grow the business. Because like I said, the sales team should be the catalyst for revenue growth, for profit growth of the business, to then become one of the most indispensable parts of a company. And I've been in very technology-driven organizations that are very product and engineering focused. So it's even more so in those types of organizations, the sales team is able to justify what it's doing, how it's doing it, and that they're seen as being a real growth driver of the business and not just an incremental growth engine, of the organization.
And all of this is so important as we talk about scalability, that we've got to find out what are the processes in our business. And that's true whether it's a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation, or whether it's a startup business that you are just beginning to launch. What do you do that is repeatable, that is predictable? That's the only way that you can really scale that and bring it up to the next level, whatever the next level is. So that is very useful, very practical, and very applicable. Michael, as you have looked back on 20 years of professional growth, who has influenced you the most, and who would you recommend to people who want to follow in your example, want to build a business, want to excel in sales? Who can they learn from, and who would you recommend that they spend a lot of time getting to know?
I think sales is so much personally driven, meaning it's about activity and it's about motivation. and about doing the hard things and dealing with things that a lot of people every day don't have to deal with, specifically dealing with rejection, dealing with a lot of uncertainty. Of course, everyone has that in some job, but I would say focus on the psychology and focus on what it takes for you as a professional, but also you as a person to be at your peak. It's probably trite to say the name Tony Robbins, but I've read almost everything Tony Robbins has published in his career because to me, there's an understanding there of what it takes to be at your peak state at all times. I love reading about psychology, love reading about why people do things. I love understanding what's behind leadership. A lot of Jim Rohn, that comes back from years ago. I love reading about the biographies of really top-notch executives. Jack Welch was one who I studied, very much so because at the time he ran the largest organization in the world. And I think there are a lot of little stories embedded in there that maybe I can't relate to running a $500 billion business, but there are things about growing the company, things about managing people and customer examples that I think are ultra repeatable. But the one thing I would encourage everyone who really wants to grow, especially as an entrepreneur, because often you might be in your own environment managing yourself at all times, you have to build your own personal board of directors. And like a good board, there should be people on that board who know you personally and care about you personally. There should be people on that board who not only know you personally, but don't give any crap about you personally because they're just there to be an objective resource for you. Maybe it's professionally. And then also people who truly understand the profession that someone's in so that they can offer potentially forward-looking advice or business-related advice. But again, who can also be very objective along the way and sometimes be that really tough coach or tough boss that the person might not have officially in his or her life, but they might be able to lean on to be able to get the advice that'll take to sometimes keep people focused and keep people pointed in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Very, very powerful, very important. As we begin to wrap up, Michael, any final thoughts or words of wisdom, words of encouragement or motivation that you would want to share with those who are just starting out? They're just beginning their sales career. They're just beginning their business, or they're just beginning to try and turn this into something that is going to be really successful. What would you say to give them the encouragement that they need?
I would say number one is every person I've ever managed is always capable of doing so much more than he or she is currently doing. And even if that person's a top performer, there's always so much more capability in that individual. So always think bigger. And I mentioned part of it before, but focus on strengths and lean on those strengths. Don't be blind to the weaknesses or the areas of opportunity, but again, leverage the strengths because that's what typically will scale a person more than anything. The second, our CEO here at Compass often says that leadership is having a very clear picture of what the future is, a very real understanding of where you are today, and a very regimented path to get there. So again, realistic view of today, clear vision of the future, but most importantly is that very clear methodical path with milestones along the way. It's not just about, I want to go climb Mount Everest. Mount Everest has base camp. It's got multiple camps. It's got the ice flow. It's got the last pass. It's got all these different aspects to it that happen step by step. And I think viewing one's career is, let me just grow to the next level. And whatever that next level is, okay, I'm here. I feel good. I'm confident. Now let me take on that next step. And again, everyone is capable of more. Everyone can challenge him or herself more. And again, I think that should happen both personally and professionally. And sales is a constant game of results. And it's a constant game of knowing whether someone is or is not on track because the results are staring at you in the face at all times. So salespeople typically have a way of managing that, and they have a way of at least visualizing their success or failures, which could, of course, be its own challenge. But nonetheless, the results are always right there. So stay close to them, keep an eye on them. But as you hear in commercials, past results don't always indicate future performance.
Yeah.
So same idea. The past doesn't dictate the future, and the future is something that people control and have a very clear vision of where you want to be.
Excellent. Excellent. I've been speaking today with Michael Coscetta. He is currently the Chief Sales and Strategy Officer of the real estate technology company Compass Incorporated. Thank you so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us. I really appreciate it.
Ralph, thank you very much for the opportunity and really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you again.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.